Hello, I'm Amy Bergman, sharing 3 more HR tips for operating your business during COVID-19. Last time we got together, I discussed employee communication and feedback and having a solid COVID-19 plan for your business. Let's get started with discussing compliance with regulations. Now, there are new regulations that impact businesses since the onset of COVID-19, as well as existing regulations impacting today's employers and their employees. The new regulation, HR 6201, is the FFCRA, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Has 2 key components that are important to businesses: the the Employee Paid Sick Leave Act, as well as the expanded FMLA. Both of these provisions provide a variety of options for employees to exercise their rights for job protected leave, for caring for themselves during an illness of COVID-19, as well as potentially caring for family members and or children that have had a closure in their schools or their child care center. Also, the CARES Act has a variety of provisions that impact businesses, many of which are probably more appropriately discussed by a CPA because many of them are tax provisions. But there are a few key things that employers should be aware of, including the expanded unemployment-related benefits for employees should you have to reduce hours or conduct layoffs, as well as a variety of tax rebates and retirement plan implications. So certainly investigate those. Now, the other existing regulations that have been around for quite some time, but are prevalent and you should be aware of during this time of COVID-19 and operating your business. First, enforced by the EEOC are rules relating to harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. And especially now, it's important because key areas that are surfacing relate to harassment, discrimination, and retaliation based on one's national origin, as well as those employees that may need to take time off for a COVID-related illness or for caring for others. So I believe that now is a really good idea to emphasize your non-discrimination, anti-harassment policies with your team. If you don't have them, then we need to put those in place for you. The other is HIPAA. This is the privacy of employee medical information, expanded rule there. It's important to think about it in terms of if you have an employee that tests positive for COVID-19, you are not allowed to disclose who that employee is to others within the organization or to anyone outside of the health department. So if you have an exposure, you need to notify anyone that was in close contact with the individual that they have been exposed to someone in your workplace that tested positive for COVID-19, but you can't disclose the identity of that person. And then you provide them the guidance of contacting their medical provider and health department for further guidance, require them to quarantine for 14 days and potentially get tested. Other posting requirements relating to COVID-19, as well as just overall existing regulations. So there are federal, state, and local, in some cases, regulations pertaining to employee rights, and these need to be posted in a conspicuous place for employees. It's also important to think about your employees that may be working remotely and how you can electronically communicate the existing regs as well as the new regs that have come out related to COVID-19. Don't forget that many health departments have issued ordinances or orders that are required to be posted in workplaces as well. So check with your local health department. And then finally, the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, relates to exempt and non-exempt employee classifications. What this is really relating to, as I want you to think about it from a COVID-19 perspective, is if you have remote workers, you need to have a solid remote work policy that defines how you are expecting employees to record their time worked, especially for non-exempt employees. Those are employees that are eligible for receiving overtime for hours worked over 40 in a work week. And other types of things that need to be in that remote work policy would include information security guidelines, confidentiality guidelines, and things of that nature. When you think about your business operations, it's really important to look at ways in which you might be able to diversify your offerings during this time of COVID-19. What do your customers want? How can you deliver them with the staff that you have? Consider working with a marketing firm or a marketing strategist to help you maybe reach out to your customer base in a new and different way. And then also consider using this time to develop employees, whether that be providing them the opportunity to do some additional online learning or cross-training, so that if you have an outbreak in your workplace later and you have several people off, you have cross-trained employees that can step right in. Other creative solutions to think about for your business operations are new and different ways to connect with your customers, potentially sharing talent with neighboring businesses. Maybe you don't have a marketing expert on your team, but a friend of yours that runs a business down the street does. You could share that talent. Think about how you're going to creatively set up your workspaces to be compliant with the social distancing requirements. Of course, consider remote work and how long will you allow employees to remote work, or will it be indefinite? And how you can be creative in the way that you now need to meet with staff, with teams of people, how you can communicate messages, which we've talked about in the previous discussion. And then thinking forward to when things eventually may lift a little bit and we get this virus under control nationally, what will your business look like? Are there things that you definitely will reinstitute, or are there things that you'll probably step back from and maybe not do those anymore? And then also thinking about just what type of staffing of your operation do you need? How can you best service your customers? Will there still be some anxiety amongst employees or customers? How can you continue to protect employees as things get a little more loose? Again, considering remote work, is that going to continue to be an option? And then the ever important employee engagement, how can we continue to keep employees connected? And how will we onboard new employees in a different environment? Those are some business operation tips. Finally, looking at your talent, both attraction and retention, and not to mention, there's still businesses struggling, so looking at cost containment ideas. So now's a really good time to get creative. If you've had 5 full-time employees for the last 20 years, maybe it's time to think about some job sharing where you have employees that might prefer to work 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and instead of getting rid of them because they can only work part-time, find another person that can work part-time and have them job share that position. There's a lot of interest in the gig economy and having multiple jobs and people, flexing their schedules. So those are things to think about, but there's some other ideas here too. And as you think about attracting new talent, it's really imperative right now to find ways that you can be flexible for your employees, whether that be more flexible hours, flexible work arrangements for where they work, and maybe they work for 4 hours in the morning, take 3 hours off midday to do something else, and then come back and work in the evening remotely, things like that. And thinking about the structure of, your staff, they don't always have to be payroll staff. You can look at other subcontracting opportunities to tap into different talent. And again, to retain your talent, you need to stay connected with your team. So attraction and then retention with employee engagement. So a little bit about us. We provide HR consulting to small to mid-sized businesses, both for-profit and nonprofit. We are available to assist you as you're navigating COVID-19 in your business, whether that be from a compliance standpoint or a strategy standpoint. So feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to assist. Thank you for tuning in to the top 5 tips for operating your business during COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Tim with Lenawee Now. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out our website, lenaweenow.org, for additional resources to help grow your company, or if you're dealing with the challenges from the COVID pandemic.